It's kind of amazing that we made it this far into a show like Mythic Quest, isn't it? I'm just genuinely surprised that there was enough of an audience that could cross over from video games to television to give us a third season of Mythic Quest. Maybe it's because McElhenney and company signed a deal for the 4 seasons. Maybe it's just because I don't see a lot of people talking about the show. It's a lot of factors, but the point is, here we are. Mythic Quest Season 3 has reached its finale. And I gotta be honest with all of you, I don't think this was the strongest season. This, in my opinion, was the weakest of the 3 seasons. It had some things going for it. I don't know. I'm trying to understand, like, where did things go wrong? Is it because we're in such a speedy world that when it's making jokes about, like, the metaverse and crypto and NFTs, it feels so dated already? I think that's kind of part of it. I know that's hard to do because eventually you are going to get trapped in that bubble where you're going to have to talk about that stuff. And no matter when you do it or how you do it, it's always going to feel dated or like you're not up to date with whatever's going on in society. That's bound to happen no matter what. But it really just like, oh yeah, I guess people would still be talking about the metaverse when they filmed this, so that suddenly becomes like a big joke this season. And I guess making like we're gonna put NFTs in Mythic Quest is kind of funny. There is a more timely thing being discussed in this season that I do like. It is all of these stuff about like making the Mythic Quest movie. That feels more timely because we are months away from the release of a Dungeons and Dragons movie, so that kind of makes sense. That storyline, I should say, that worked for me. When it's like, okay, Joe Manganiello is going to show up and he wants to play the lead character, but he's so in character he's not going to want to show his face, and everyone's so kind of happy and demanding. And it's like, that's good because it's the meta stuff that I think the show does better than just Ian being like, we have to get our new game into the metaverse. That doesn't sound fun. But I get it. It's when you were recording this, so it makes sense. This plotline is okay. It's the stuff where Ian and Poppy at the end of the last season, they went off to start their own new game, build something between the two of them. As the story progresses, you realize maybe Ian and Poppy's relationship is kind of straining because of everything they're working on. Are they going to fix it? Are they going to heal? What is it that Poppy wants to do? What does she want her game to be? How does she want her career to take off? That kind of stuff. It's like, okay, that makes sense. I think it's like the big problem that this season faces is that it doesn't spend enough time dedicated to that basic premise, where we have to cut away to give the actors we are also paying to have their like B plots that don't always work. This one where it's just like, Danny Pootie's gonna go catch a rat, and I'm like, okay, sure, I guess. You know, it's like nothing really. That's kind of a problem. That's not to say that this season feels like a filler season. It just feels like, oh, maybe the idea we had for the season wasn't as strong as it used to be until we culminate into the ending that has to be that ending. And I'm like, that is completely fine. I guess it doesn't need to break the mold or change itself in some daring ways. McElhenney does okay. I think Charlotte does okay too. Nobody stood out to me as like, this is a great season. This is like what we're doing. I think it's fantastic. Of course, a big change is that F. Murray Abraham will not be returning for this season. I get it. The dude's getting a resurgence in his career between Moon Knight, Cabinet of Curiosities, and The White Lotus. Why would he want to come over here and do the World of Warcraft show? I get that. They handle it in a nice enough way where we don't really miss him, but you feel the lack of that presence. Not throughout, but it is like, oh, are we missing like the cynic energy where there's like an older generation making fun of the young people? Are we missing that? Was that the magic of this show? I don't think it was, but you definitely feel that presence is missing. Now, the other thing about this too is a lot of the cast is directing episodes now. And look, I'm not criticizing that. It definitely makes us feel a little more like a close group and like a tight-knit set where like, okay, we're not really moving outwards, getting new personalities in here. We're kind of focusing on the personalities we already have, kind of keeping it linear in that aspect. And I don't know if that's like a problem. It's just like, oh, now we know exactly what's going to happen, and it's not going to be crazy. They announced a spin-off, so that, like, I guess the season is doing well enough where they could announce a spin-off, because they did an episode called Sarayan, which is like the old school like origins of Ian and Poppy, and it's a fun episode. The best one of the season. I've said that last season too, when they do like the backstory for CW and all that. I love those episodes. So an entire show dedicated to that premise. Not a bad idea, and I think the problem is it's going to be like, oh, this is what we should have been doing from the beginning, showing like real world people falling in love with video games, as opposed to getting a little too like in ourselves with like, look at this big company where everyone's just kind of goofy and lazy and has like a lot of like hashtag that just happened energy. That's kind of like the big problem with this. And I did laugh sometimes, not going to criticize that. Once again, David Thorsby is killing it at everything he's given to do. The guy knows exactly the types of roles he needs to play and does it perfectly. There's just aspects of this season that feel like we didn't have a complete story to tell. Our department was like, well, we have to have Rachel in this scene, so we're going to drop this plot for her and put her in this situation. What are we going to do with Dana? We don't know. Put her here. Okay. It's like Cheryl's going to have more to do. It's like, okay. It's fine. Like, I just don't think there's any real weight to it. But there's somehow a bigger budget because we have an entirely new set. We drive a tank for some reason. And I'm like, what are we doing? How is this happening? I guess it's that kind of like that Avatar thing where it's like nobody was talking about it, but it still made $1 billion. Where it's like, is nobody talking about Mythic Quest, but it's like secretly like the #1 show on Apple? You know, because I don't see anybody talking about it in my sphere or any other sphere. It's very weird and very fascinating, but this season was mediocre. I think the first 2 seasons are better. Hopefully season 4 finds its tracks, and whatever the spin-offs is going to be, hopefully that works too. Because this concept, I love this concept. It's a strong concept. I just wish it was executed a little better. So, Mythic Quest Season 3, I am going to give a 5 out of 10. And thank you guys for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Hive. And I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.